O. Dar nu știu care e al meu. uh, Bună seara! Bună seara, bună seara! Se aude? Da. O să întrerupem programul muzical timp de o oră și un pic. Nu știu care e canalul meu. Și vă invităm să participați, să ascultați și apoi să contribuiți cu întrebări dacă aveți la o discuție care va fi în limba engleză despre scena de club și cum să îți mai deschizi și să conduci un club în ziua de astăzi. So, I'll switch to English. Hello, Paul. Paul is our guest today, together with Iulian, who made possible this communion. Paul is running a label and he's head of bookings at Club Tresor. The Tresor label, sorry.
Just the club. Just the club.
Just the club.
Just the club. Yeah.
And Iulian has different, all sorts of hats he's wearing.
Where do we begin?
Yeah, where do we begin? He's a producer. He runs a series of parties. He's dealing with all sorts of stuff, dealing music and clubbing. So I will start, since we don't have a lot of time today. I will get straight
Let's do it.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to ask you if you were to present yourself to someone who doesn't know anything about clubbing or about yourself, what would you say that you are doing?
I guess the easiest one, and I usually have to remind my mother what I'm actually doing because she doesn't understand, but a cultural events programmer would be the easiest way to say something. So in the essence of putting on events on a weekly basis at a cultural center, whether it's, and culture could be anything from music, performance art, concerts, records in stores, anything that basically brings music and people and art together.
Approved. So how did you get into clubbing, into running the bookings for Club Tresor, which is an institution by now of international repute?
Yeah, it's something that I kind of keep pinching myself at the position, and the opportunity like this is has given me. But I've pretty much since leaving university, I've been in music and cultural events. I started off as an artist care in Australia, basically picking up artists and picking up people who are touring and taking them out to dinner, doing all the pre-production, making sure that everything is running smooth before the event actually starts, and also doing a pirate radio show midnight till 2 a.m. with some friends. And yeah, through all of that, I decided I really wanted to give this actually a go. And we started working for a larger company called Future Music in Melbourne, and they ran festivals, and they also had a Saturday event called After Dark Social Club, and basically cut my teeth in the industry doing Saturday nights. Serendipitously, I managed to land a job in Berlin.
Oh.
I was only meant to be here for a year. It's a very cliched Berlin story.
Everyone moves there for 3 days and...
Yeah. And now it's 12 years. So I was given the opportunity to work in a bar at a club called Stadtbad. And then, for those who don't know, Stadtbad was in an actual old abandoned swimming pool. It's the original boiler room Berlin. So if you go back and watch old boiler room shows, you'll see it's actually in a swimming pool boiler room. And basically they were expanding their program, they were growing as a club, and right place, right time. I was offering if I could help out.
At
Back of
Tresor.
house. Oh no, this was at Stadtbad still.
All right.
And
We're still at the Stadtbad.
exactly, and then basically had the opportunity to move over here full time, get a visa, packed all my stuff back from Australia, came over, and then Stadtbad closed 3 months later. But then the whole team got transplanted over to Tresor.
So that's how you ended up in the
Exactly,
team at
exactly.
Tresor. That's a really interesting. Your I don't know, beginning.
You just fall into it, and I think it's a bit of a cliche, like right place, right time, a little bit of luck.
Also very important to know things from the I don't know, from the bottom to the top.
Yeah,
like
that's-
taking care of artists and organizing parties,
Exactly.
and that's how you probably learn the best how to run
You get
stuff.
the inside perspective of how a system, how a structure of a club, how something works. I also, in Melbourne and in Brisbane, I was working as in nightlife, in gastronomy and hospitality, hotels, bar management, cocktails, fine dining, as a runner, as a barback. So
you're never very far from the
basically exactly everything that, and I started off as a runner at Tresor, as like restocking fridges, doing all that, and it gives you an understanding of the club. You know exactly the busy periods. You know when it's the heartbeat of the club to be a runner.
the hours, the program,
hours, exactly,
everything.
15 to 18 hour shifts. It provides a really good understanding and a backbone to build on and grow a club like Tresor. So I don't feel like when I took over in 2022, it doesn't feel like I hit the treadmill and was just like all out of whack.
What do I do?
Exactly. I knew how the club operated. I knew the crowd and the system. I knew all the staff. So it was a very smooth transition. Before that, I skipped ahead a little bit, but before that I was doing the bookings at which is Tresor's sister venue. 250,
Such a nice place for
it's beautiful.
parties.
So I was doing the bookings for for 9 years. So that was kind of like my introduction into curating programming, not on an individual level in terms of booking specific artists, but booking promoters.
Promoters.
Exactly. So we would have a monthly program and booking, making sure that your understanding of the Berlin local grassroots scene was understood, so you wouldn't book the same two parties in the same weekend, because then you would step on each other's toes, and it's not good.
Even for such a huge place as Berlin, with this incredible audience, you still have to manage the nights just so that you don't have a clash of sound with...
It's unfortunate that like Berlin doesn't have the scene like London does, like the saturated market of a noise scene or a jazz scene or something like that. It's very, diverse in terms of its open-mindedness for music, but the specific scenes, it can be very difficult to get like a really good crowd in on a regular basis. So was a good lesson in understanding that you need to give people space to do their own thing.
Does this still apply, like to this day, even for like a good techno lineup? Would you run into a similar problem, or this is only more for the niche sound?
Yeah, techno's and house is a bit more of a, and like they're lucky. there's enough of
like a privileged status for this kind of music.
There's enough of an appetite, and there's enough clubs, there's enough support. Whereas anything else, even if it's bass, polyrhythmic, some other stuff that is still club leaning, but a little bit away from the 4/4, you probably still need to make sure that you're not hosting maybe a main act or a local party that's clashing with someone else in the same fortnight.
So basically you need to create a context for this kind of events.
For sure.
Otherwise they're just gonna fall flat.
I think one of the foundational rules of building something is having a purpose. If you don't have an ethos, a curation ethos, whether you're the club or you're the promoter doing the party, you will just fall, like in a saturated market, you will completely be drowned out. And seems to lift those people who have a purpose, who have an identity, Doesn't have to be sonically. It could be your cultural identity. It could really just represent what you want to stand for with the crowd and who you want to support.
What sort of check marks would these people need to fill in so they get a spot in this programming?
When I was doing it, it was a little bit different to now, because we specifically were booking genre-orientated music because that was what was getting proposed. Hey, I want to do a noise night, or I'm doing like really textural ambient with concerts and like live shows. Now, I think because of the way that Berlin's club culture has evolved into a very genre-fluid, everything goes, we're breaking down a lot of institutional structures in terms of you're allowed to play breakbeats in Berghain now. It's okay. It's not gonna, people aren't gonna like lose their minds for it. It's a lot more accepting and a lot more refreshing in terms of that. That means your very genre-specific concept may not stand out. So people then look towards, okay, who do I want to invite into my party? We're going to play all these different genres of music, but who do I really want to enjoy, and who am I? Maybe a lot of the time it's the marginalized groups that don't get a chance to be platformed. So thankfully Berlin's got this very like open-minded and encouraging space for people to experiment, and for people, like, there's enough venues for people to do their own thing and find their own markets for their own crowds, below 250, 300 people, and allow that to grow.
Circling a bit back towards lineups.
Sure.
How do you manage to, strictly in terms of Tresor, how do you manage to keep Tresor's institution-like and image in terms of what they built for the past 30-something years, and bringing in a little bit of freshness, something new, and what do you look for in an artist?
That's the biggest challenge, honestly. It is. Tresor is built upon Detroit techno. It is the Berlin-Detroit connection that has been the foundation for the club's ethos, for the label, for supporting artists and having that exchange, that cultural exchange. And that foundation is important, and it's integral to the club. And given the difficulties now in general, not just this year, but in the past 10 years, to continue to invite a large quantity of artists over, not just from Detroit, just from America, even from the UK now, it's just very expensive. In general, we had to look inwards and build from the local scene outwards with flavors of Detroit. And so it's now more of a, we're looking at it as a holistic perspective over the year or over the quarter, and making sure that the Detroit ethos is throughout the program in terms of what local artists are playing that pay homage to Detroit techno. And in doing that, that allows for that connecting bridge and that like contemporary sound to be heard. And it sounds
complicated a little.
It is. It's complicated because you get into the nuances of reinterpreting a classic genre. So there's a lot of sounds through, maybe say, and I'm gonna have the pitchforks coming at me for butchering these genres, and the very fundamentalists. But let's say fast groove or hard groove has elements of minimal techno, which is what Robert Hood made famous in that sense. That is it for me. That is a connecting bridge. So we have one of our residents, Bailey Ibbs, I feel is a great connecting bridge for people like Ben Sims or people like Robert Hood, who maybe, God forbid, don't know who they are. But that's also the environment that we're living in. We have to think about these people that are needing to stumble across legends now, rather than it's a foundational bit of education that they know from the beginning.
Just by coming to Tresor and giving you the
platform to exactly. So that's for me. The research comes into looking at artists and what they're playing, and being able to find what they're emulating, what their influences are, who they. I mean, the artists themselves know who who Robert Hood is, and they're
it is a tricky line to walk here, because some of these new artists don't really know the history and the culture, and they just jump on a trend. Maybe something is popular now. They jump on it, but without studying the history.
Sure.
Even if the sound is somewhat similar to that history, maybe the ethos is not. Sure. How do you separate this? Or how do you find out? How do you...
I would say that I'm erring on the side of conservatism when it comes to booking. There's a big difference between chasing a trend and staying relevant, and staying relevant is just being able to speak the language of that next generation, to be able to communicate something that is exactly the same message that you would say to your parents. You have to speak to... I love the idea of communicating a complex idea to a 5-year-old, to a teenager, to a uni student, to a tenured professor. You have to do that with music, and you have to do that in a way that is able to stay the course of what you want. And in that case, I just have to wait. Sometimes I do miss... not sometimes, a lot of the time, I do miss the intuition that maybe an artist is going to be a genuine reflection of that next sound.
So you basically wait until they sort of prove themselves in a way.
Yeah.
And
you have to think, like, a lot of this is also a big thing back in Australia, was clubbing culture was a thing you did during university. Once you got your degree, you left. It was not a lifetime
community
or
was not
it wasn't
forming.
It was a community of uni students. That's but in Berlin, it's a community of career or industry-minded people that would like to make music as a living, whether it's back a house like myself or behind the decks. And that takes time to prove that you're actually into it. It's also the allure of being in front of a couple hundred people or 1,000 people. You get that rush that gets addictive, and maybe that blurs the lines of why you really want to do it in the first place. And that takes time to be able to understand as an artist. And it takes sometimes it's a guess. It's an investment. I've had artists who tell me that I feel that aren't chasing trends because of the way they market themselves, the way that they hold themselves in the respect to not just the club, but to the music that they're playing. Say, oh, actually, I'm taking a break because I'm studying my law exam, my bar exam, so I'm going to take 6 months, 8 months off. Never mentioned it before. It was a complete surprise, but they took it that seriously. So, there's always, like, sometimes you can invest in something and they'll come back, and you just have to wait it out.
So, do you think you were mentioning social media earlier? What are some plus and minuses in you're seeing in how people get into contact with new music at the moment, or how they consume club music?
It's
mediated.
My relationship with social media in terms of my role at the club has changed over the past 4 years. I have to be honest, I was a bit disorientated when people were sending me Instagram accounts as a way for me to check out artists in 2022. Not SoundCloud, or not their music, not their Bandcamp.
Snippets.
It's like it was literally just there, and a lot of the time they just didn't have any music content on there. That's changed because the communication vessel of social media has changed, and it's now an integral part. Whether people like it or not, it's an integral part of how we communicate. And to evolve as a culture, to evolve as a community, and to evolve as a venue, the digital and physical realms need to be working side by side. They can't be pushed away. They need to be done in balance. And it is important. You need to communicate ideas. You need to communicate what you're doing, and you need to stay in touch. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have this. What's the point of having a legacy institution that has stopped talking to the next generation? You just then end up drifting away into the past. So we do need to make sure that through all of our channels that we're properly communicating what we're doing in the language that the next generation or whoever's coming up can understand, and it's really important.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, because you don't want to self-replicate yourself until.
And it's not, social media is not going away at all. Like we can't fight this. It's like the same as a smartphone. You can't let's go back to a Nokia 3220. Like it's here with us, and we should be able to embrace it and understand it and use it in the best way possible. Yeah.
What about phones in the club?
Well, how do you find a long-term balance between a great artist with zero social media skills and a terrible artist, which is basically 80% of the time, with great social media skills? How do you, where do you draw the line, basically?
I think it's difficult for me to be able to answer that without bias, because Tresor is very privileged in the sense that we don't need to worry about numbers, as in the traditional sense. We don't need to be booking on social media stats, and that negates any form of conversation that I have to have with myself or with agents going, oh, this person has X amount of followers versus, you know, it's a bit obvious, but Helena Half doesn't have her own account. I'm very comfortable booking her, and she's an anomaly, of course, but I don't need to. If someone is like, yeah, really good with marketing, but they're not good at music, they're not going to play, and that's only a privilege that booking at Tresor does. I know that it is different in other for small promoters, and that's a problem that they have to battle with. But that's then, if the person doesn't have a social media account, it's up to us then to communicate the importance of them coming down and experiencing, you know, it's just something like what you're doing with having secret lineups. You're engaging in that trust of like having the crowd understand that you should be here for the music rather than the marketing, and that is something that's really, it's just really important.
And that already Tresor stands for a certain level of quality, so you give it your trust when you come there, and even if I don't know the name of the artist or I can't find them on Instagram, it's not going to be a problem.
For me, that's something that I try balancing with the local community, local DJs, and pairing them with someone who's more of a legacy or more of an established name, and allow people to, they're there to see someone at say 2 a.m. or 3 a.m, but by the time that person gets on, they've found a new artist, or they stay and they discover a new artist.
That's also what you do at Aerial Palette, right? Is bridging.
It's under research.
Bridging and emerging artists, and together putting them together with
basically
more
the
consecrated or
basically that's how the idea spawned, but more for performance art and fine art. It was a way, because Berlin is very supportive of DIY artists. You will go to any pop-up and we'll have someone who's putting their photos up there, doing a performance on the street. You know, it's very grassroots, and it's great for experimentation. But if you're a fine art student or you're a DIY artist, the institutional gap, the gap between you performing there and the institutional arena is quite difficult to break. And I wanted to, you know, use the opportunities to present artists in venues that have professional setups with, you know, relatively professional paychecks, you know, because that's also a thing. There's a lot of free art going around, which is, you know, there's an exchange, but artists also should be valued for their work. It's, you know,
even though you're at the beginning of your career,
get compensated for your art that you actually, like, you're putting this on, whatever scale that is, and that is obviously a very subjective, a separate subjective conversation to have. But there's just a lot of free trade in the performance world and the art world, and I just created Aerial Palettes as a way for art, performance art, and music and concerts all to kind of blur into this one thing, which is something that Berlin's very strong at doing. There's a lot of interdisciplinary events and formats that support this thinking outside the box of what an event should be, what a performance should be. But for me, that's also just, I think deep down, that is a big curatorial drive for me, is to, I have a lot of close friends, I have a lot of colleagues that are very talented artists or whatever discipline. And if I, in the position that I'm in, or that I'm very fortunate to be in, to be able to use that in a way that can help them reach a platform of a new audience, then yeah, that's something that I'm really satisfied in.
So you're
in
also
achieving.
employing. You're also employing art and technology in your shows
Yes.
that you do with, so you cover a
Depending
lot
on
of.
exactly depending on the event and the concept, we've done everything from VR VR experiences, spatial design where we have immersive experience where people walk through areas and experience, an art that maybe might have been static in terms of, and turn it into more of a dynamic format. Yeah, it's there's enough demand, and the venues and the art is all there ready, and I'm just lucky to be in the right time frame of Berlin as a city that is supporting that. And there's a lot of very I know I mentioned on a lot of places, but Malt Collective is doing amazing things, and also Refuge Worldwide there too, that always spring to mind for collectives and platforms that are really helping this community grow.
Berlin sounds like the ideal place, at least from a little bit afar, in terms of clubbing and artist life and everything. But what do you find are the biggest challenges right now in the club culture in Berlin?
I think basically the main narrative that's been happening is cultural funding, and the support and continuation of support for artists and artists making a living. Running parallel to that is also the venues. There's been a lot of talk about venues closing down, whether it's construction or rent increases. Yes, that's definitely going to have an impact on the city's cultural nightlife. But it's also, I feel that more optimistically, I think this is just a part of a longer term cycle, that new venues will open up. There's always going to be a way for people to come up and find ways to find new spaces and do these things with or without funding. But right now, the climate is a little bit uncertain. There's a lot of things that, as either a promoter or as an artist, you're feeling a little bit unstable. There's been a lot of funding cuts last year and this year, and whether it's large-scale festivals or if it's small cultural spaces. And that is definitely a conversation. We can't just be passive and let that happen. We have to be very vocal and make sure that this just doesn't get trampled over. But it also will force us to be creative and force us to think of new concepts and force us to move over to new venues, which is always good. Change is always good in that sense. But right now, the cultural landscape in Berlin is healthy, albeit facing its own challenges. And I definitely know that, considering how privileged Berlin is a city to be funded in the way that it is, even though we are experiencing a lot of funding, to say, oh no, we're getting X amount of millions of dollars cut next year, and a couple other other places in other cities will be like, well, we don't even have that to begin with. So we're definitely aware of our situation, but I would definitely argue we should not be the canary in the coal mine for what happens when funding gets cut. We should be the beacon as an example of what happens when funding is strong, and being able to build a sustainable cultural economy, a nighttime economy, whether it's clubs or whether it's art. It's really important that the state understands that we're providing a lot of support for tourism. We're providing a lot of support for transport. We're
contributing a lot to the
It's an ecosystem.
Life.
Exactly. It's not an industry. It's an ecosystem. The nightlife has. It's a beast of its own. It shouldn't be considered just as an industry.
You cannot really separate it from the image of Berlin, at least.
Yeah.
It should be a cultural landmark, in my opinion.
Exactly.
What about festivals that are starting to, let's not say cut from the nightclub life, but apparently there's migration trend of people towards festivals at the moment.
Right.
Daytime partying.
Well, that's basically gentrification of nightlife.
Sure.
The people just going into big production festivals.
That, yeah, it's a tricky one because I feel in Berlin it hasn't hit us as much as it has hit Europe as a whole. So it's still a very much clubbing is still very much an integral part. I think it's built into the ethos of like not trying to be. They're pushing away festivals. There are still some very like strong weekends, like Whole Festival or Garbage, or that are, they provide a really good lift to the city. But yeah, clubbing itself is still the strong point. But to your question, it's difficult. I think that the larger festivals within our industry of music need to lead by example and be interesting and innovative with their curations. And I don't know. I think take a little bit of a risk rather than play it safe, because you do notice, everyone notices the festival tour of all the artists that go around.
It's pretty much the same thing all throughout Europe, for example. But what do we do when these festivals don't take any risks and they just go by numbers?
I'm interested because it's you could correlate the same thing with the flattening of music culture and the devaluation of music culture through streaming is the same with music festivals, in the sense that we're heading towards a point where are we just putting a mirror up to how society really views music, in the sense that people actually don't care as much as we care, and the demand is there, but for cut and paste festival formats. And in that sense, that can exist, just like fast fashion exists, and there's still haute couture, there's still a space for us. There's also a chance that maybe what we're trying to do doesn't scale. And there was an attempt to scale it, and that's where it's leading down, and that's why I kind of feel that it is, I just feel that direction of how those festivals, even though it's coming from the underground and they're booking underground, it just gets watered down to the point where it completely changes what we've started. And I think that's just a different crowd. It's not going to be for better or for worse. It's just different, and then it just moves into that different ecosystem of.
So basically, the more we scale it up, the easier it is for us to fall into the same trap.
I feel so, and I have colleagues that start off with festivals at 300 people, go to 3,000, and then push it to maybe 5,000 because their production gets bigger, maybe the space gets bigger, and they're allowed to get 5,000 people, and then they have the decision to whether to draw it back or increase it. And they've done both, and they feel that sometimes the crowd, once it gets to a certain point, is not what they set out the initial point. So I feel that maybe there is a breaking point for your crowds. There's only a certain amount of, whether it's 5,000 or 6,000 people, who can all converge onto the same genre without making it turn into a tech bro rave or to turn into a TikTok rave or whatever. I definitely feel that there is a particular point before it turns into something that's not us.
Actually, 3,000 and 5,000, now that you mention it, I know a couple of examples of festivals here that have stopped at 3,000 or 5,000 just because they were beginning to become unmanageable.
Yeah. It's also it's also just as a sociological experiment, camping festivals and the nature of a community-orientated, small grassroots event. You like to know people after like day 2 or day 3. My camping neighbor is now my friend, and that's really hard to do at a place like Fusion Festival, where it's like X amount of thousands of people, and you lose your friends within the first 30 seconds because it's so massive.
Definitely.
Nothing against Fusion Festival. It's a different feeling, and okay, you might have the feeling of euphoria with sharing something with 10,000 people, but I still feel that the intimacy of 300 to 1,000 to 3,000 people is much more impactful.
And the thing is, the more people you have, basically you have to kind of lower the common denominator of music.
Yeah.
So that more people understand it, or at least feel comfortable within that space.
For sure.
Musically.
Totally.
Yeah, that's such a good point,
So
because people need to enjoy
basically,
all
the
of
more people you have, the less quality of the product you have. You may have big production like visuals and all these logistics,
Yep.
but when it comes to the art in itself, whether it's music, whether it's art exhibitions or visual installations and all of that, basically it drops down in quality. Look,
sure.
I don't want to shit on anybody, but
No.
look at these anima shows. Basically, they have like this robot banging into a wall,
Yeah.
and they call it art.
Yeah. And you have to appeal to that greater, like it's the catch-22 of art or music. It's all subjective, and it's we really struggle to agree on an actual fact,
Plus,
let alone interpret art in a way that is able to appeal to the masses.
you can definitely, there is nothing experimental in, or at least up to some degree.
Yeah,
for
people can't even agree on what a chill out floor should be. Whether a chill out floor should be ambient music or drone music or the new age music or like what should we, or 90s trip hop. One genre can't be agreed on. It's very difficult to be able to appeal to a lot of people on that creative level.
Because I'm imagining in terms of safety, it must be a nightmare to
That's also
handle.
true. I think that's also something that is when you start off these type of projects, you don't often think about fire safety. You don't often think about security, crowd management, all of the boring stuff that comes with running clubs, festivals, events, installations, anything like that. It's a big learning curve for people, and to do it professionally and to invest is expensive, and you really need to make sure that you have the right team around you to execute this properly. Otherwise, the experience itself is not going to be good, and
It's
it's
a lot
very
of
difficult.
responsibility for a lot of people that you invite there,
Yeah.
and also it's a topic that fortunately it's becoming more and more popular in terms of safety, and also in terms of people feeling safer in clubs also.
Sure.
And how to manage and how to do that, and how to make the staff feel safe, and
Sure.
also people coming in as party goers,
Yeah.
because there's usually some clashes. And how do you manage to keep this floating?
It's difficult because you at the door. It doesn't start at the door because you have to attract the particular type of people.
You mean face check?
Well,
Before the face check,
before
you
the
have
face
to
check.
cater to
The people
a
that actually come
specific audience.
Exactly.
Within the way you
Promote
show
yourself.
and promote
Exactly.
yourself, you put out yourself out there. Basically, that is the first filter of selection.
Exactly, and fortunately and unfortunately, Tresor is a very famous club, and there is a lot of good techno tourists, and I'm saying that with a lot of bias. A lot of Australians come over, and they're genuine, proper clubbers. They understand etiquette. A lot of Australians also don't understand etiquette as well. So but when you leave yourself open you expose yourself like Tresor does on a global stage, you have to be mindful that this also attracts very different types of people. And then it goes down to, so they're all coming down, which creates a mixture of a melting pot of guests, and it comes down to the door to be able to, like you said, I hate to break the myth of Berghain selection, but what they're doing is not judging on you on your clothes 90% of the time. It's judging you on, are you responsible enough to be able to handle what goes on inside, and have an open mind, and have and that's obviously very difficult to judge on one
Just
question
by looking
just by
at
looking
someone.
at you. And sometimes they get it wrong, sometimes a lot of the time they don't. They have built a great crowd. I think the more important conversation to be having with people is more so that it is an illusion that there is a perfect crowd. where a party, because even if it is the hottest party in the city or the hottest promoter that is doing the most popular party of whatever genre, they will still have a night where the crowd isn't as perfect as the last memory of that other person had. And this is what we're always conflicted with, not just Tresor, but promoter colleagues that I work with have to deal with the stigma of one bad party or one bad person who ruins it for whatever reason, for whatever reason, and the conversation gets stopped there. And unfortunately, we're chasing the ideal perfect image of a perfect crowd, which doesn't exist.
Chasing the first high, basically.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it doesn't
But
exist.
In this situation, we kind of have to educate the crowds into stepping in and to understand that if something happens at some point, they're equally responsible for what's happening there. They should be aware of what's happening during a night. The second they step into a venue or into a party, if they know the ethos of the organizer, they should follow it almost by the letter.
It should be working in
they should protect the space just as much as the ones trying to organize it, basically.
You need a community for that, a strong community, and a sense that people are sharing it.
Exactly, and I think it's first and foremost the club's responsibility to be able to provide awareness teams or security,
the logistics of it,
promote it, make sure it is ingrained in the party, in the ethos. It starts at the door when you're communicating, you're welcoming guests. It happens within, whether it's posters to say look after one another, and also have actionable protocols when something is happening for guests to be able to see something goes wrong, note that they can speak to the bar. All of that type of behavior should be intuitive to all guests at a particular point in time, and that takes time. It also, you as a promoter, you as a venue owner, you as a door team also need to be proactive in not just doing it once, doing it week in, week out, and building, because that's the thing about trust is it takes an eternity to build and a second to break. But yeah, it's just building that community, as you said.
Iulian, you started a series of parties where you experimented with this.
When I started this in Bucharest, basically I started with a 50 pieces set of rules. I had 50 rules where people wouldn't be allowed to do that and that and that and that and that, just because it never happened here in Bucharest. Everyone thought but this is common sense. But once you were there, it wasn't common sense, because people just lose their control even after a couple of drinks. So they don't act like common sense anymore.
For sure.
But I wanted to put it specifically before, so that
for
when
people to be able to read them,
or at least become aware of that. And I happen to have two different types of people reacting to this. Some people were offended by it, but this is common sense, we already do this. No, you don't, I've seen you. And then the other part were well, we have more rules to add. So these people who needed more rules are the ones who will obey all the rules, and they will act accordingly, and they will behave at the venue. But they never show up just because nobody wants to actually enforce these rules on the people who break them. So this is where the trust that you have to build for these people who would actually act accordingly. But unless you prove it and you say I'm going to throw this person out, and they see it, that's when they actually trust you.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're this is just words.
Exactly. And that is.
And this is pretty much what everyone is doing, copy paste set of etiquettes and whatever. But when it happens, nobody does it. And this is not just Bucharest. I mean, Berlin is full of this. 1,000 crews promoting the same.
Well, everyone copied and pasted the same safe space policy at the end of their RA event.
In reality, it's not happening though.
And this comes with the gentrification of and the saturation and flattening of club culture. Is that someone could come in absorb a marginalized group and their ethos and what they actually genuinely stand for.
Basically taking advantage of
It's appropriation.
it's appropriation. Yeah, there's people who know how to do marketing, or they know how to steal a crowd.
Yeah.
They just say, okay, let's copy the design from these people. Let's copy the text, like the etiquette from these people.
Yeah.
Let's market ourselves in this way. We're going to attract this type of people, and then we just leech on the system.
Sure. And Berlin is the city of, you know, that's so vulnerable to be taken advantage of, because it generally came from roots of marginalization, roots of people wanting to be discovering themselves, and a lot of people have just sucked the life out of that and copied and pasted that to
turn it into an aesthetic
and market it to like mostly heterosexual crowds, and it's not their, a lot of the time it's not their domain to enjoy, in that sense of how it's marketed, of how
and of
it's,
course they're not going to provide a safe space for anybody, because they don't really care.
They don't know how to, and because they've never been in the situation themselves. So how, as a person who's never been in a situation that is uncomfortable in a club, to be able to preach to their guests what a safe space actually is when they've never encountered a
so
feeling
they
where
never felt unsafe in that way.
And that's a problem. That's a problem. It's, some would argue that it's good that this, at least the discussion is happening and people are bringing awareness to it. I'm not going to argue that, but
It's become super obvious now. I mean, you can see it with your own eyes whenever. So
yeah, but like you said, it's good that people are talking about it, but it stops there, because then there's still no action, there's still no trust, then there's still no change. So that's the big change.
I think it has to be like a work,
ongoing
100%
process all the
constant
time,
work.
and it has to be collaborative. I mean, for example, I don't know how to do I don't events safe for women, because I know some abuse is happening, especially in the Romanian scene. So I need input from women in the industry
Exactly.
to actually provide, look, we are going through this and this and this and this,
Exactly.
and these are the situations we confront ourselves like daily. So we need to find a system that kind of works for this event, but it has to translate into,
It has to turn into a culture.
to all the other events, and basically enforce it on everyone who's doing this.
Yeah. And that
Probably
also extends outside of the club.
I mean,
like
they
the
were doing this. They were promoting this kind of stuff for 15 years now.
That's up until now. That's the only way we found it to work,
Right.
in designating lots of people that we know that share
Right.
the same ethos.
Yeah. And I'm
Or at
assuming
least
it
they
took a lot
can
of time.
handle.
It took
to
a
build.
lot of time,
Yeah.
yes, and it cannot be managed for very large crowds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's also maybe a thing that's been pushing us to keep like a smaller crowd,
Sure.
like 300 people maybe.
And that's
manageable.
That's also a good thing, that not everything needs to be scaled. Not everything needs to have this exponential growth attached to it. To be able to continue strengthening and including and having this like very natural, organic cycle of a community that comes in. That doesn't. You're not forced to. You know, it cater to
employ
everyone.
a lot of.
You know who you're catering for, and that's important.
Plus, like Bucharest is not such a big city, and 300 people is probably the limit.
I mean, the
that
city
we
is
would
big,
have.
just the culture is
The
not
culture is not that big.
Right.
Yeah.
well known.
Right.
So it's probably the limit.
Yeah.
It's as opposed to Berlin, who constantly attracts people from
But
all
it's also
sorts of.
definitely it's also it is a very saturated, diverse market, but it's still very not clicky. I mean, it is clicky, I guess, but it still has its small pockets. So you wouldn't be able to scale certain things in the same way that you wouldn't be able to scale what you're trying to achieve. It's just
There's more of these pockets.
Exactly, more pockets, more different scenes. But yeah, it's important that it just continues to grow and continue, that the message continues to be able to like be communicated, whether it's in Bucharest or Berlin or wherever. It's good.
Given your, I don't know, recent knowledge of, let's say, what we're trying to do here, just even if you know so little, what advice would you give us for like an emerging scene?
That's what a question.
Three, really,
Yeah,
three
right
little
now.
pieces of advice that you would advise, and not necessarily from a club perspective,
Yeah.
but more on the promoter perspective. Because let's be honest here, the real culture in Bucharest is driven by independent artists and promoters, and not clubs. Clubs are only interested in one thing:
Yeah.
people through the door and bar consumption. That's it.
Yeah.
Especially in Bucharest, they don't care. They will never select a crowd at the entrance or by the way they.
I wouldn't say
Put
never.
themselves out there.
I would say that they have a loose. Or
Yeah, it's loose. It's loose. It's a looser
Yeah.
sort of
Sort of.
attitude. Yeah.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, the answers aren't going to be as sexy and dynamic as they
Yeah,
they
that's the
should be,
point.
because from my observations, it's sticking to your core ethos, your purpose of wanting to be genuine about what you're trying to build and what you're trying to promote. We are in an industry where we're doing things that we are passionate about by nature. This is the music that we like. It's very rare to see someone in the underground or someone in our kind of circles not like the music that they put on. It's very jarring.
Yeah.
That is different for, say, larger commercial sized festivals or clubs, because they look at it as a business. That's a bit different. But for us, normally, it's what you're passionate about. So stick to that. Make sure that you're being genuine. And the number one thing I think is time. You have to give it time. And it's fortunate that rising costs of putting on events may hinder the longevity of doing something on a regular basis. For instance, for Aerial Palettes, I did three events last year. Two of those were supported, as in the curation fee was paid for. The work that myself and my curators had was for free.
Out
But-
of passion.
Exactly. And this year, well, I have one, which is next week actually. It's one concert, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine that to be able to continue doing what I'm wanting to do.
You'd rather space it out.
I'd rather
and-
or just feel what it feels right to do, like whether it's the artist, the concert. I'm lucky that people, it's kind of very... Yeah, it's Aerial Palace started in 2022, so it's interesting that people are coming up already and pitching their proposals of like, oh, I went to this and saw that.
Wait until you hear pitches from Bucharest now. There's going to be a lot of them.
Sorry?
Pitches from Bucharest for all the projects.
Yeah.
Like, can we play at Tresor? Can we do the Berlin atonal? Can we do that?
Yeah,
Basically,
and-
yeah, it's gonna start coming in.
It's exactly, and then and it's having the ability to say yes or no based on the pitch, but no, if you shouldn't feel forced into doing something for the sake of just doing something. I'm walking slowly into a very interesting philosophical territory about just production, producing stuff for the sake of producing art is maybe a little bit different, and I also agree with that. You shouldn't always have to like wait until the perfect moment, until something's just right and the conditions are just right.
Yeah, just throw it and...
You should just be able to throw caution to the
Let
wind
it
and
live.
do something.
Yeah.
But that is based on the fact that you want to do that, not because you feel forced to do it. And I think that's a clear distinction between the two ethoses. And I think those are the two main important things.
You have to live off of something and maybe try to marry these things together. And
I think the downside with social media, that's not just with our creative space, is it's given a false representation of what the creative life is and what the artist life is. And I think, if you do a little bit of art history and read some of the most famous artists lived in poverty
it's a lot of
and
struggle.
unknown until they die, that's not glamorous. And
Not that we aim for that.
also not true. Exactly. But I feel that that's the reality of pursuing and being art. It's never been a financially rewarding industry.
Definitely, you need to work on your thing and
I'm
perfect
sure.
it.
I'm sure we're not the only ones that have parents that were very worried that we decided to do a career in music, or the instead of saying I want to be a lawyer, it's like I want to be a DJ. It might make some parents go, oh no, why? But there's definitely a path for that
nowadays, because they kind of understand what is happening. But 20 years ago, when I
Also true. But
did
it's
my
still a
first
difficult path.
vinyl release, my parents didn't understand anything. They were like, "What is this? This is just."
But you still don't start. You still don't start off as an artist or a producer earning a living. You go through the
until
months.
they saw the first paycheck, which was like their yearly income,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, okay, you're doing the right thing."
Yeah.
But then it started to kind of get worse and worse. The whole industry kind of became more cannibalized.
Yeah.
So the competition is like super intense.
Yeah.
You end up in the position of a struggling artist. Even a lot of established people in this industry
Yeah.
are finding themselves in this situation. Most of them, they never adapt.
Yeah.
They
also important.
they wait on they kind of reject the social media. They become purists.
Yep.
But they also kind of step away from the whole space,
Sure.
because now this is the space.
I mean, legacy needs, or institutions need to remain relevant and not gatekeep in the essence of thinking that they know all the time, that their name, that their brand, that their history is going to carry them forward. You need to be open to suggestions. You need to be open to.
For example, how does Tresor still keep it real in a super competitive environment?
I mean, we're going through a very.
It has to be sustainable financially so that the whole organization kind of gets something.
For sure.
But it also has to keep the ethos, but also not gatekeep.
Well, at this, it's that we have this. I mean, we're open for 35 years. 35 years next year. Yeah. We're going to go through cycles of ups and downs, of popularity, of relevance, and whatnot. I like to see the different levels of education that we provide to new people. So we have Tresor New Faces, which is a Wednesday night guidelines of DJing less than 5 years, haven't played the big institutions, and you get the opportunity to play on a Wednesday on a good sound system, great sound system.
That's
with
amazing.
with the professional service and everything that comes with it. Last year we started a mentorship for 4 hosts, where we provide some feedback. We take a little bit more attention to their curation. We want to continue that as an investment in the future. So these 4 people will then, or collectives, will then not just continue playing new faces, but know that they might have a chance to play on the Fridays and Saturdays. And it stems from my observation of this unrealistic perception of perfection, or of high standards that we're all, doesn't matter if it's like sport, like for instance, I love football. Premier League is the highest, or Champions League, depending if we want to debate, is the highest level of football competition on a weekly basis. Go watch League One football, and you notice that you're spoiled with quality. Even if you're watching relegated teams play in the Premier League, it's high quality football. But as a footballer, where do you, if you're a 10-year-old, where do you go to watch like people like yourself learn the skill of playing football? No, you watch Ronaldo play, and you think that you have to be that good straight away. It sets a really unrealistic precedence for the growing phase, the learning phase, and everything. So when it comes to DJing now, especially,
Everyone wants to be Jeff Mills now. So
Oh, I mean, everyone just wants to be on Boiler Room. They only see the grandstanding main event result of years of hard work come into a one festival Boiler Room or whatever. They don't understand that you have to play a lot of shitty gigs to 10 or 15 people at 6 in the morning or 1 in the morning, or if you're the headliner, maybe you're not the headliner because no one's coming down for whatever reason. You have to have this like built-in humbling moments, and it starts from new faces. From my perspective, is you're allowed to come down, and it's quite successful. It's busy from the opening bell. And so you have to like learn as an opening DJ to learn how to open a club and deal under pressure with, oh, there's 300 people here going crazy already. I wasn't expecting this. Can I control myself and still remain an opening DJ, or do I bang it
Not
out
feed
and get
the crowd with too much too soon?
Exactly. So, and they will do that. It's a learning curve. But I think in terms of remaining relevant, that's our kind of initial flag planted in starting educating from a young age. And yeah, I think our weak spot is this kind of next little demographic that, like any kind of I don't know, teenager who wants to rebel will go else and will go off and go to other clubs. It's also where a lot of their friends are playing and where their communities are going, not necessarily Tresor. And then we have our older market who's grown up with the artists that are playing on that weekend, who have more of a connection. So it's just this balancing act of like constantly cycling through and making sure the next generation of artists of guests are educated and they come in through and providing all of this with or without social media. It's just like having these different steps.
I think that's a really important thing that you're doing with this Wednesday nights. I think maybe it's a thing that we should think about over here. I don't think we have such a thing here. Like people, maybe established artists teaching other people how to.
It's foreign. It's a very foreign. A lot of people don't understand what DJing is. And I think it was Sean Ronaldo that made an observation of when Aphex Twin plays a track. Mm-hmm. They think it's Aphex Twin playing live. Like when he does a DJ set, they think like that they're playing.
They associate it with
him,
that.
And for it's even more of a disconnect when people see a live set of a DJ and they see maybe a laptop or a couple of controllers. They have no idea what they're doing. So workshops and things like that allow people to get curious and allow people
to start to understand something.
Basically, the crowd needs to understand the inner workings of the whole industry, because 95% of people don't know what it means to run an event, run a club. They don't know the costs. They don't know dealing with agents, dealing with
the whole process.
They just show up, get a drink, go home. Yep. But they don't understand what is actually happening.
You forgot the other important part. They can show up, complain, and then go home.
They add the complaining to that. But okay, we're fine with complaints. Just give us constructive criticism, positive feedback that we can use in the future, as long as you understand what is happening behind the scenes. Yeah. But this is our responsibility to actually speak about this and not hide behind this curtain like we're untouchable and we are separate from the people attending these events. So we need to tell them what we do, basically.
Also, get people curious and touch a vinyl. That's something that's it's always so I don't know, elusive in the feeling of seeing a spinning record and like, wait a second, how are you mixing these two together? And even just touching the vinyl, slowing down, spinning, like you don't have to do anything aside from that to get an understanding of like, oh, that's what that tangible quality of mixing is. And then people will get hooked and get interested in, oh, okay, so that's how you're beat matching, or that's how you're listening for songs, or that's how you're buying records.
And then you start listening actively to the music and like being maybe chasing like a groove or like something.
The younger that you do it, the more open-minded that you become, and you're exposed to that. And and then you get indoctrinated into the nightlife culture of things like etiquette, of behavior, of what happens. And if you educate from a very young age, you're going to have a very strong community of like-minded club goers and dancers and music appreciators. Doesn't matter what genre. That's how it starts.
Understanding the craft of DJing and what it takes, and maybe paying a little bit of respect, tribute, or
totally.
Well, I think we're kind of
almost running out of time. Does anyone have any questions? They're interested.
I don't know how to
probably not
to do this in this setting, right?
Hey, nice to meet you, and welcome to Bucharest and to lovely Barton here. So just bear with me while I'm finding my own words
Of
to,
course.
to express my question. So I think you already touched on this partially. So I'm just trying to understand what is your opinion on the technology's impact on the clubbing culture
Mhm.
these days. So a lot of publications are writing about the clubbing not being as much as alive as the past decades or so. So um, I'm just wondering if you are conscious about the impact of technology, like when people are choosing to go to a party or not, are considering watching a movie on Netflix or doing or watching a DJ set.
Right.
A lot of people are not probably as impressed by music as in the past decades because they are having like easy access to internet and they can dig by themselves Discogs and YouTube and find anything. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, if you're conscious about this impact
Mhm.
created by the technologies and if you're having like different approach to combat that.
I mean, that's a great point and a great question. Absolutely, it is. It would be irresponsible of me if I wasn't paying attention to this or didn't notice the impact of what online streaming, the ecosystem that is existing for everyone that is online, especially post-pandemic, that what happened, and in that sense, streaming all the online sets. I would say that there's a positive and a negative net result from these, depending on which way you look at it. On one hand, the positives are the fact that the ability to be able to understand what is happening in another community. So like everything was so fragmented and so yes, like strong in identities. Like you would go to a particular part of the UK and have that particular sound of drum and bass, or you would go over there and it's jungle, or you would go, it's a different type of techno or something, because people were just within their communities and they weren't sharing. It's definitely, there's been a lot more cross pollination with ideas, and I'm able to see X club stream and hear what a DJ that maybe I am interested in and see what they actually play. That's helpful because I would never get a chance to possibly see them before I book them. So you can use it to your advantage. It's almost a part of research in that sense, and it definitely, like anything with technology, I feel that it, whether it's AI or which is the buzzword obviously right now, but you can use it to be more efficient and help with what you're trying to achieve. But then you can also get complacent. You can also get very lazy. You can also just rely on it. You're being fed something without, like, I just finished reading the Mood Machine Spotify book, and I had a trouble connecting with the problem with algorithms because I never passively listen to my Spotify account. I'm always searching, but then I realize I'm the one that's actually actively searching for music. I'm not just passively listening. So I'm using the technology differently to what is considered a danger, which is just letting a very narrow lens.
Feed you something.
Exactly. And that narrow lens is the danger. When it comes to getting people off the couch and getting into a club, that's a more difficult problem because you don't have control over that. It folds into the club, well, not even club, it folds into the culture and the communities that are encouraging people to come out. And it's very difficult because, like, you know, like, I don't think you can force anyone who's into, let's say, a stereotypical gamer to force them to go into clubs. They will always probably be gaming, and it's the fact that technology is encouraging that. That's the feedback loop that they're in. But as to music lovers or people who are interested in music, that instead of going on Discogs, maybe go on YouTube now and Spotify and just listen to music and get their Friday night house party instead of going out to a club with their friends. It's a challenge that I don't have much control over, and I can't do much aside from make the culture that we're building more alluring, and getting that connecting bridge for people to go, hey, you know what you're seeing online? the real thing's actually much better.
Right.
And that just takes trust, and it just takes time to build, and you just have to keep working at it and keep communicating that. But you definitely can't ignore it. You definitely can't say that it's not a problem, or push it aside and say, it's the kids, they'll grow up. No, you have to tell those kids, come out, and encourage them to come out and build something that they want to come to. Don't be so arrogant and to think that because you're older, you know better of what to experience. You have to be able to reach them in a particular way.
And do you have like active campaigns, PR campaigns, where you are saying you are just listing the things that people would get from coming to the club, like a great sound system and unreleased music and
For
so
sure.
on?
So I mean, the Tresor Records is Thomas and Felix have a fantastic approach to getting not just the label out with the Bandcamp and the releases, but the YouTube channel has Tresor Live, so we take a lot of the live recordings that artists record, or if we ask them in advance, can we record this set? We have our SoundCloud, obviously, where we repost a lot of the stuff that artists record. We also have a lot of things on Spotify that are playlist orientated. We're not curating vibes as Spotify wants us to, but we have Drexciya catalogs. We have an electro party called Aquaban that is connecting the bridge from the past from Drexciya to the contemporary electro and bass scene now, and we have a playlist like that. So we do feed a little breadcrumb for people to kind of discover. We also have a podcast series where called Tresor Expansions, and we talk about different subjects with legacy acts. And podcast for me is a way of connecting with, communicating these type of ideas to people that may not normally go to the club anymore, or also people who are just using podcasts as a way to connect with artists. So yeah, we're definitely active in that sense, but not in a in your face kind of advertising marketing campaign. It's just, these are the extensions of our ideas, and what are the tools that we can use to platform those ideas.
I want to throw a little
Thank you.
something into this, into your discussion about experiencing music on a loud sound system, like on a big sound system. The people listen to music at home, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud or anything. You don't have control. Once you release the music or the mix, you cannot know what people are listening to. So I think it's very important for people to experience it on a loud sound system. It's a different experience, definitely.
I am lucky not to be an artist and have the pains of thinking that my tracks get played on an iPhone speaker, not even through through buds.
Basically, we need to kind of educate the crowds what music is and what sound is,
and how to listen to
like
it. Places like this is fantastic.
Yeah,
to be able to
come here.
It's a soft plug, but places like this are fantastic because it is the gateway to understanding.
It's also becoming a hub for a lot of people who are actually passionate about sound and music in general, like
the amount of times
production.
you listen to a track that you would have heard growing up on the radio or hearing on your phone or whatever, and then you hear it on a good system, you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize
Is that how it sounds?
Is that how it's supposed to sound? That sounds amazing. There's whatever frequency you're missing out on when it gets compressed through your phone speakers or your MacBook speakers. You're missing out on a lot of the experience, and this is why places like Open Ground have invested so much money into proper acoustics and the proper systems, and this is why the conversation of sound system culture is such a long-standing tradition. It's being able to properly translate a producer's idea to the public
It's
in the right
not
format.
out of snobbery. It's
Exactly.
just because
It's a necessity, basically.
Exactly.
To have a decent sounding space, it's a necessity.
Christopher Nolan would not want to watch what you watch Inception on your laptop on 360p. It would. I mean, maybe you could with a service, but that's not how you're supposed to process that type of art. And same with music. it's a very.
But we cannot control that. At least
No.
not in.
You can educate.
We can
though.
invite people to listen to music in the club,
Exactly.
and hopefully they will.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's all about education, and then that's it's a cliche. It's a tired thing, and it sounds like an adult trying to teach a kid to listen to them. But education is the only way to do it. It's just how you go about it. Is you don't need to force it. You just need to expose, and that's the difference.
Definitely. Well, I think we need to wrap this up. Paul is going to be here with us for I don't know, some time, a little bit of a little bit more time. So you feel free to engage. Sorry, you have a question, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Hello. What would be in 2025 a good approach for a promoter to get bookings for a DJ?
Like to reach out to an artist to book, to bring them to come over as a promoter?
If you want to promote the other way around, to get bookings.
Oh, to give it, so as an artist to get booked to a promoter, to reach out to a promoter.
Yes. What you, for example, in Tresor, I guess you get a lot of booking
Yep.
requests.
Yep.
What are strategies that you think are good, that are in 2025 that is like a good way to reach out to clubs? So when you are trying to get bookings for a DJ.
It's a really important question. I think for myself, it's through established relationships with agents that I have, and they have a roster of artists that they will communicate their ideas, what they're playing. But that's usually for established artists. I think for local and new artists that are coming up, the way I discover them, it's usually that way that they do. Of course, send me proposals, and I have a particular spreadsheet where I like just save like for I have like listening sessions, and it's a process of just continually listening to these proposals. But as an artist, just to continue putting yourself out there, and not for a particular purpose, like not for particular someone, just put the music out that you want to be booked for out, and have that as a almost like a business card for when you offer yourself and say, hey, I would like to play at your club, here's my SoundCloud, here's my mixes, here's my releases, here's my thing. You have
to go through all the emails that you get. It's still a way of reaching out to
it's still a way,
clubs.
definitely. It's
and
I mean,
agents.
for institutional venues, it's a little bit more difficult. It's a bit like it honestly is a right place, right time scenario, because there's just a lot of locals out there. That is the hard reality of a saturated market. But also start small. That's the other thing. Like the only way to grow is to like start with foundational aspects, and to get grassroots and to build yourself up. You'll then get noticed in time.
Yeah, the question was not for the artist that promotes himself
Yeah.
directly, but an artist who has a promoter
Then usually it's through the agent. They would.
through the agent.
I mean, that's usually the safest bit through that. Yeah. No worries.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Paul,
No, thank
for
you.
answering and clearing a lot of stuff for us. Iulian also for making this possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Barton for hosting us. And
Yeah, special
See you
thanks to Radu for this guy,
Thank you.
for creating this space and a sort of a meeting ground for everyone, and for actually sponsoring part of this event,
Yeah.
like what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
He helped me with this. Yeah,
Thanks
this
so
is
much
an
for having me.
integral
Appreciate
part
it.
of like the first step of the Romanian techno scene is actually being supported from the people who matter.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
all right. Thank
you,
you.
Let's
everyone,
hope
for
to see
listening
you
to
at more techno events and more art events. Support the culture.